Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of Tech Chomper Live. This is episode 11. We are rocking through these. Thank you for joining us again. As usual, this is a show where we're going to cover things about tech, ask questions, anything you want to know about. I'm here to help. If I don't know an answer, I'll look it up for you. And if it sounds like it's something that's helpful to a lot of people, maybe I'll put it in the next live stream or make a video about it. All about trying to bring value to people on the channel, help you learn things, teach you how to make better decisions when you purchase things so you don't regret it. Just overall enjoy your experience with tech, because there's nothing worse than blowing a lot of money on a gadget and having a really horrible experience. I've had that. The first Xbox 360 for me was, whew, man, I went through 5 of those things, had some frustration. I gave up video gaming over that thing for a while. I was so angry at Microsoft. So I try to help avoid those scenarios anywhere possible, help you get the things you like and want and enjoy them. So anyway, with that, let's get into some stuff here. I'm going to make sure the chat is up. If anybody has any questions, please post them in the chat. I'll be watching that to answer anything I can to help out. And yeah, I guess one of the first things I wanted to talk about that I thought was pretty cool, I had seen a lot of people posting about, is tomorrow there is an updated version of the Apple TV 4K coming out. It's not a major upgrade in terms of like a total redesign or anything like that, but it is actually upgraded hardware. I believe it has the A12 processor. I'm going to pull up the screen here so you can see it with me. It has the A12 processor in it and this new remote over here, which is pretty cool. Some of the things they were showing that's nice, I guess, on the new one is with the upgraded processor, now they can get high frame rates on 4K content. So just a smoother experience for things that were shot at higher frame rates like 4K 60. Now it can play it, which is really nice. The same processor they're using there is the processor that they're using in iPads and iPhones, the A12. So it's basically like a screenless iPhone or iPad that's going to use your TV through an HDMI port to show you content. And I use Plex. I think I've talked about that before on the show. Plex is a really nice piece of software to manage your collection of music, movies, TV shows. I don't know if you are obsessive about that kind of stuff like me, but I have a ton of content stored, as well as content we've shot for our channels. And it's really a nice front end to be able to manage all that stuff. And you need something to run that on your TV. There may be some TVs that support Plex. I haven't really looked into those, but I know that a lot of media players like the Apple TV will let you run Plex, which is really nice, as well as some of the Android devices out there. You can buy a plethora of off-brand Android-powered devices that are media players as well on Amazon. A lot of them far cheaper than the Apple products by far. But the Apple definitely has a nice ecosystem. Integration you get is really nice. Being able to cast something from your phone or from your iPad just straight to the screen without having to mess with how you're going to get it paired up and stuff like that. It's really easy to use things. Whenever you stay kind of in the Apple universe, they've gotten that integration down so good. So that looks like a pretty neat product. They've updated the remote. It has a pretty cool little wheel now that I'm going to pull this back up so you can see it here. The remote over here, that's a Siri remote. You can ask for things from it, as well as they've got a new kind of jog wheel thing at the top, if you will. I don't think that's the right term they're using, but you can swipe your finger around the outside of that ring on the remote there, and you get fast forward or rewind capabilities really easily. And then it's also just got, I don't know, pretty easy, lightweight little to use controller for it. One of the other cool things that I didn't even realize they had on Apple TV that I'm kind of interested in is down here. Let's see where they've got it. For one, they've added a new cool feature where you point your iPhone at the screen of the television. You open up the Apple TV and tell it to color calibrate, and it will use the camera and sensors on the face of your phone while pointed at the television to automatically generate a corrected color profile to show you the best image quality for any video content on your TV, which is super awesome. They have had stuff like this for sound for a long time, where some of the sound bars, when you turn them on, they have a calibration feature that will basically turn on some microphones, listen to the audio as it bounces around the room, and it will pretty much pick that up and decide how to optimize the different speakers. If you've got like a 5.1 surround sound, it's going to try to figure out how to optimize those speakers and adjust them based on what it hears with its microphones. And so really all this means is, I guess, years ago when I got into home theater stuff, you really had to hire an expert almost to come calibrate things, or you could buy a few of the calibration discs out there. One of them was Disney's World of Wonder, I think, the WoW disc, and it was a Blu-ray that you could run. And for DVD, I cannot remember the name of the DVD one, but there is a DVD calibration disc that was really popular for standard def. And you could use either one of those to generate color profiles and test patterns on your TV and kind of follow through. And not really a wizard because they weren't smart TVs then, but follow through, and it would tell you how to adjust contrast or saturation, chroma, stuff like that, so you could get the picture of what it was closer meant to be whenever people shot the stuff on whatever device they used at the time. Maybe it was mostly film back then. But to have this where the iPhone can just auto-calibrate the stuff and do this with your television is super awesome. This used to be something you have to buy separately, like the Spider Color devices that they had. You could use those with a computer monitor. You could use those with a TV, with whatever, and it would pick up the cut from the TV, try to read back to a known source, and calibrate and generate a color profile for you. And so being able to do that with just your phone now is super cool. So yeah, that was another feature I thought was pretty neat on there that I believe is new for the new version. Another thing that they have, which I didn't even know about down here, there you can see they talk about the swipe area you can use on the remote, swipe around. So that's pretty awesome. And then apparently I didn't realize they had a arcade setup where you can play all kinds of games. Apparently I didn't even know that was an option. Pretty awesome, because the gameplay on iPads and iPhones is pretty good at this point. Those processors are powerful. They've got good GPUs. So just, I don't know, a lot of cool stuff you can do. The 32 gig model is $179. The 64 gig model is $199. I think that's the same pricing that they had on the old ones. They seem to just kind of upgrade the hardware but keep those pricing tiers the same. And so I don't know, looks pretty cool device. Everybody's talking about them right now. I'm definitely interested in getting one. I don't have anything attached to my TV right now in terms of a media player device like that. I literally just have a full-size desktop PC that was an older PC that I've shoved under there, loaded with Windows 10, and run whatever I want on their web browsers, any software that I want to use. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. But a media player like this would be really nice, especially to have the voice navigation and some of that stuff to pull up your content. Ask it to play Netflix, ask it to go play music, ask it to go to the Apple store, play something, and it will just go do it, which is pretty rad. Another thing that I saw that I was super pumped about, I am excited about electric vehicles as they keep developing. Obviously, Elon Musk is here now in Texas, here local to Austin, with his Tesla pickup truck factory over here and all the stuff that's going on with him. And so I guess watching the electric car market explode is pretty cool. It hasn't gotten into trucks so much. I know the Cybertruck is coming, and it feels like since the Cybertruck, there has been kind of a push for more people to get in and compete in that space. And Ford has a pretty sweet new deal with their Ford F-150 Lightning truck. It basically is supposed to get 563 horsepower off the electric motors and 300 miles of range if you get the big battery pack. I think they're going to have like a smaller battery pack and a larger battery pack. Obviously, the larger one's just going to be more expensive, probably a little heavier as well. I don't know if that really affects performance on the vehicle in terms of capacities internally to it, but it definitely ups the tow capacity. The bigger battery truck is rated to tow 10,000 pounds, which is super awesome. But the cooler thing about the new electric trucks that are all electric is you can plug them into the charger, which is wired into the mains on your house, and it can reverse flow electricity from the vehicle back into the house. So one of the really cool things, I guess, that they're doing that isn't quite ready, but is going to be a feature that will upgrade. I'm not clear on whether it's a hardware upgrade or just a software upgrade, but essentially the truck with the battery, if it's sitting in your garage, say plugged into the charger, it will charge. But in the event you had power outages in the house, it's going to automatically switch over to becoming a battery for the house. And it claims it can run the average house for 3 days on the battery power of the truck. And as soon as the electric comes back on the mains, it will just flip back to charging the truck again, which is really nice. And apparently one of the upgrades they have coming that I think it's probably software based on what they're saying, is it's going to monitor for power quality. And if you had any type of brownout or weird spikes or fluctuations, you could have it set up where it will automatically kick over to the battery just to protect like a giant kind of battery power regulator for your house, like you would get in an APS that you would get for a computer. And so it's really cool that they're going to have that functionality where you can kind of dual purpose that battery. I am curious how that's going to affect the lifespan of the battery, because I know all batteries have a certain number of times they can charge and discharge before they start to have issues usually. And so I don't know if you use it to run your house more often than not, if that's a problem. And another thing I think is you can just use it as a giant battery when you're out camping or in the field. And I believe it said the big battery you can pull 9,600 watts off of, which is insane. I think it's 2,400 watts off the front end of the truck and like 7,200 watts off the back end of the truck. So 9,600 watts total. That is a ridiculous amount of power. That'll run a window unit AC or something if you're a glamper that doesn't want to sweat in a humid climate like Texas or Florida. I feel you. I don't like it. I don't sleep on those sweaty nights. I just lay there wishing I had air conditioning. So that's pretty awesome that they're doing that kind of stuff. And I don't know, it looks a little weird. They've got some imagery of it I can show you here. It's got like a strange light bar here across the whole front, LED light bar. The trunk looks pretty awesome, though. The frunk, as they call them, a front trunk. I'm not sure how I feel about that word. But they've got a ton of storage up there in the frunk, which is pretty awesome, because then, normally in a pickup truck, you don't have anywhere to put dry stuff. You've got the pickup truck bed, which unless you get some topper or something, which is more money, then your stuff's getting wet back there. So it's nice to have some dry storage up front, and then that massive battery to power stuff, man. You don't really need a generator. And some of the other cool technology that they are working with, because I know people are afraid of running out of juice on an electric car, is that this one will help plan your routes and where you're going and automatically calculate the battery usage. And apparently you can take into account weather, traffic conditions by time of day, terrain, all kinds of stuff like that, where you could use more or less power from the battery. And it's automatically going to help you gauge if you've got enough juice and when you need to stop using juice if you're using it as a generator or something else. Apparently you can send alerts to your phone. So I don't know, all that technology is coming so far and just doing really, really cool stuff. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes down the pipe. Apparently Arizona's got like multiple electric car manufacturers cranking out stuff out there. And I didn't even realize that was happening, but they have several that are laying down big factories and cranking out products. And I guess Waymo is out there for all the autonomous driving stuff. So cool things happening in Arizona I did not realize. And I guess the other cool thing, I just recently started kind of learning about Starlink internet. And I know one of the things that my family and I talk about frequently is we wish we could move out somewhere and have some more room. We have just a lot of ideas about creative things we want to do and want a lot more space to be able to do those things. But, honestly, lack of broadband is the biggest thing that holds me back. Being into tech, working in the IT world for so long, I use high-speed internet pretty much every day. I would take a 1 gigabit per second synchronous connection if I could get one. I waited forever for Google Fiber. It never came. My neighbors, it's a long story. I'm not going to get into it, but my neighbors hosed it up, and so Google Fiber just left town, didn't set up my condo complex. I'm sad about it still. But Starlink is trying to make it where they can provide super fast, high-speed internet to people anywhere via satellite. And I know so far, a satellite is not really a good option. Pardon me, I'm going to have some water real quick. Open it. So satellite internet is typically something people avoid like the plague. Anytime you talk to somebody about satellite internet, they typically look really sad because it is just horribly slow. And one of the big problems with that is just what they call lag, the delay from the time you try to click something or do something and it goes and comes back across the internet to you. It is just a hugely long process to wait for that. And so that equates to, if you're an online gamer or a streamer or something like that, it is not really feasible to use a regular satellite-based internet. You can get it pretty much anywhere on the planet. So if you just need internet, it is obviously the only option you've really got, which it is helpful to have that option, but it is not fast and just is prone to issues, and it's super expensive. And on top of that, they have huge data caps. So like you can't download or upload very much before you start getting charged extra, which makes you hesitant to use the internet. And I think one of the great things about the internet is this infinite knowledge base out there is that you can access it anytime, day or night, and look things up, help yourself with things that you need to do, file things online, apply for things online, interview, whatever. There's just endless numbers of things you can do with a good internet connection. But all of that is kind of hard on a satellite internet. I mean, you could do email, you can do some basic stuff, but you're probably not going to watch streaming Netflix or anything like that, or watch YouTube endlessly, or definitely live stream to YouTube, because there's just not enough bandwidth, A, in real time, or B, for you to be able to afford to do that. Those connections already are hundreds of dollars per month. And so when you hit those overage charges, it is not good. You do not want to have that situation. So Starlink, as of right now, their goal is saying that they are going to stay unlimited, so no data caps, and they're shooting for gigabit at least down. I don't know what the upload speed is that they're targeting, but definitely at least gigabit down. And right now, I guess with the number of satellites they have up, they're getting 100 down by 20 up, which is respectable. That's a usable connection. You can use that for a lot of things, and it's usable in a wide range of places, especially apparently it is better if you're in a less densely populated area. And my guess is the mesh of satellites is still pretty sparse, pretty spread out. He's launching more all the time, trying to build it up. And I think they've been approved for 10,000 satellites, which is crazy to think about, and are waiting for approval to launch up to 42,000 satellites total for their mesh network, which is just a ridiculous thing to think about, especially considering I believe Russia's working on a satellite constellation, as they call them, and who else? I can't remember the other one. Somebody else is working on a constellation. I think both of those are targeting 30 to 40,000 satellites. So we're talking about like 120,000 objects orbiting the planet. That is a ridiculous thing to think about, and hope that they don't run into each other. I guess, one of the things is when they launch satellites, they put them in layers around the Earth. There's different orbit levels. And so that's one of the things they do, is put things into different layers so that there's space between the items to not run into each other that are orbiting. And then secondly, I guess those different altitudes have different signal issues. So obviously, I didn't know this, but one of the things I found out is that normal satellite internet is so horribly laggy because it is like 253,000 kilometers, I believe, away from Earth where those satellites are orbiting. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's further. I think it's at least that far. And the ones that are launched for Starlink are more like 36,000 kilometers. So they are a much closer orbit, which makes sense why you have such less lag time, which is the time it takes from the time your computer tries to talk to something. It goes out, hits the satellite, comes back to the Earth, goes back up to send a response back down to your computer. And if you're taking that number and make it, 70,000 kilometers versus 500 plus thousand kilometers, totally makes sense why that takes so long to be able to accomplish things on regular internet, regular satellite internet rather. And so this is definitely trying to address that problem. But because of that closer distance, the grid is not as, obviously, if you have less satellites, they're way far out. The beacon they can hit is much wider, the path. When they get closer, they keep seeing a narrower and narrower path. So you need way more satellites, hence why he's trying to put 42,000 satellites up there. And so I guess by having all those extra satellites, eventually he'll up the speed. And so I guess in the next year, they are targeting bumping the speed up double. So I'm guessing that's 200 down by 40 up, I think is what they're targeting. That is a really respectable speed, man. I would definitely move out somewhere rural if I could get that kind of connection. No questions asked. I guess the only thing you have to look at with the Starlink system is it needs direct line of sight. It is critical. It has a special antenna that allows for this high-speed transmission at this distance, but it still needs a direct line of sight. And they tell you all over the place, if you have anything block it, a tree, a chimney, the edge of your house, like whatever it is, if it's blocked, you're going to lose service during the time that the dish is blocked. And the Starlink dish is a dish that will auto track. So when you first power it on, apparently, and I don't have one of these, this is just all stuff I've done research on. But when you power it on, it will scan the sky and find some Starlink satellites. And once it has located them, it will download basically a schedule of where the satellites are supposed to be and when on the system. And then it will start auto-tracking the best satellite at all times. And you don't have to do any of this. This just happens automatically. And it's going to track the best satellite to give you the strongest signal. And if there's anything in the way as that is moving across the sky, you're going to lose your connection. And it's interesting, they actually have an augmented reality view in the app, so you can go outside where you're going to put the dish And as you look around, it has kind of this grayed out area where it's clear in the middle, open, where you can see the sky, but around the edges where it's going to get the edge of the signal, I guess, that it's picking up from the dish is gray after that. And so as you look at where the dish is going to see different times of day, you can actually see if any trees or house things or storage building, whatever, something's going to be in the way. And basically the way to fix that is get the dish as high as possible to get above everything so that you can see, if possible, I guess, horizon to horizon, because then you should always have a satellite in view. But you are going to have to put it up really high. And the other thing with that apparently is they tell you in cases of high wind, you may want to bring the dish inside. So I guess you may not have internet during the high wind at that point because you brought it inside, and B, that's just not convenient if you've mounted it high in the air to have to climb up in high wind, pull your dish and bring it down and put it away somewhere. I don't know. That's hopefully they'll find some better options, but that's what they're saying right now. And so I guess for the time being, yeah, they're slowly adding more satellites and hoping to get up to the point where eventually you'll be able to get gigabit speed over satellite, which that would be amazing. I know some of the reviews I've watched are pretty happy with it. They say even though they will lose internet occasionally for some reason, if something blocks them, it is pretty rare. And when they do lose it, they said for them personally, it was usually a second or so, and they were back on the network. And so I don't know. We'll see what happens with that as that develops. A lot of people have tried to do things like this or other ideas for spreading internet out into the country, and a lot of them just go bankrupt. It is really expensive to build out infrastructure and try to launch a new internet service where you have to provide all the wiring and backbones and get everything hooked up. It's just super capital intensive. And so a lot of those companies don't make it, and nobody takes over the project, so it just kind of dies where it is. I know here in Texas, there used to be a company, and I can't remember what they were called, but it was a couple of guys in Austin in the early days, back in like I want to say it was like the early 2000s. They were working on getting super fast internet to people over the place. And so in Austin, they had set up this line of sight where they would beam it with these little small micro dishes, and they didn't need to run cables, and you would get super, super fast speeds. At the time, I think you get 100 up, 100 down, which was amazing. And so they were doing that for a while in Austin. They sold it to somebody else who, my understanding is, they ran it into the ground, and those guys moved out to Wimberley and ran it out there for a while and had a pretty good service. But then I believe that one got sold to somebody and run into the ground. So it's, I don't know, they have a hard time keeping these things going, and there's definitely maintenance costs associated with the hardware as well. And if you don't get enough subscribers online paying enough money, then it's just not really doable to keep it going. And they're not making internet a utility yet, so it's not something they have to provide. And so, yeah, it causes some problems trying to get internet other ways. Anyway, I don't know what other things to talk about tonight. To be honest, I've been slammed with IT work this week and have not gotten as much research done for the show as I would like. I am also working on trying to get upgrades in place for the show and some new reviews done. That hasn't gotten done either. I'm having trouble finding the time, but I'm still working on trying to build out this channel. So unless anyone has any questions they want to post in the chat or anything like that, I'm probably going to cut this live stream short tonight and try to have some more content and better stuff for you guys next week, and work on having some different things for the live stream. So anyway, anybody out there have any questions? I haven't seen anything right now that I haven't addressed, but I'm just watching the chat to see. So anyway, I appreciate those of you that keep showing up. Please send me your questions in between. I'm happy to help anytime I can. And if it looks like something that would help other people, I'll put it in the next live stream, maybe make a video about it, post it to my channel. I'm just here to try to help other people figure out, make technology easier, make better decisions, and yeah, help it make your life better, not worse, because that's just no bueno. So, all right, those of you that join me for the live stream, thank you for stopping by. I'm going to sign off early tonight, and I will plan on seeing you guys next week and Thursday at 7.